Alright, welcome to School of the Mind. This time I'm using my computer, which is quite weighty, but one of my essential tools, in order to bring me just the warm-up. And the thing you need to know is that you're upside down right now. I'll keep you there too. Set up now. Ooh. If it's going while I reorganize. Okay, you're back right side up again. And here I am at School of Mind. And I'm turning this into my own little personal radio show. No, I'm pretending. So pick a number. Let's make it, and I'm sorry if I hit on anyone else's number in terms of radio. My particular favorites, some of them are 99.1. There's a 98 point something classic one here in London, and then there's a new one, 93 point something, which is going to be London. I know there's always a point and a number after it. So here's a couple of points without a number after it. I guess my first point that I wanted to make, which I thought was interesting during my work today, was out in my studio finishing up my complex cube that isn't a cube, and I discovered, as I was thinking things through, that I had this really cute little barbecue. It used to be called, by a person I knew, a friend, Barbie. And they always used to act as if this barbecue named Barbie, first bought in India. This type of barbecue was this like gorgeous, shapely woman, and they used to make love in that way, in a funny way, to this barbecue that they call Barbie, who we all know, for us women who are not feminists, but who really are concerned about the images that women are subjected to in terms of the global perspective. We always thought that maybe the Barbie was not really in keeping with any dimension that was really possible. And it is being proven more and more that many people are influenced by media in terms of creating those perceptions, global and otherwise, towards any particular group. So that's a big accountability, isn't it? Especially if you're a giant media, or you have a lot of people, or you're very popular, then, it becomes a little more difficult. Of course, we can't always rely on media to control public opinion. Sometimes the public has to control their own opinions. So I renamed the one here in Canada that I have, that I brought back from the cottage, I renamed it The Alien. So the alien is out on the balcony, because it looks like that. R2-D2 looks like the top half of R2-D2, and then they put legs on him, sort of like a Salvador Dali elephant, those long legs. And so I called it the alien, and then I was looking for an alternative to coal, because as you know, coal is a fossil fuel. It increases our carbon footprint, and currently we're having a few other events, not to mention even the heat in Portugal that caused a horrible event in terms of fire, and I'm sorry to hear about all those people that lost their lives in that. And again, it was too hot, too dry, and that's why we're having these epic weather events that we've never experienced before. And according to the radio, they have had fires before, but because of the intensity of the dryness and because of the newfound runaway heat, which is because of global warming events, it struck pretty hard. So just sending condolences out to those people who had to endure that, and those who were lost. So on to reducing the carbon footprint, I was looking into enjoying the grill sensation, because I really do love that flavor, and I know most people do. And I was looking for an alternative, which was going to be these pellets. So I went into a actually was very concerned, like me. What a wonderful manager and entrepreneur. He didn't just brush off my questions about how 360 the idea was of this pellet burning kind of fire. He went in and tried as well to do a little more research, because it's up to you businesses. If you don't buy it, we don't consume it. So, and we need that level of filtering. We do. So I really love the conscientious way in which this manager went about not just filling the shelves with product he thought people might buy for profit, but really wanting something that worked for consumers on several levels, especially the green level. So kudos to him in London. His name was Robert, and I can't tell you which store, but I'll tell you I'm going to shop there again. It's awesome. I'd love to see more business leads taking this approach, because in the end, we do rely on you. We do. So less reliance on your marketing team would be the idea, and more reliance on your staff, like management staff, those who are the orderings, the ones that place the orders, research the products to bring in. Maybe they're the ones, feet on the ground. Then we'll make the marketing job less plastic and superficial. And then you'll have to rely less on marketing strategy, because you got something awesome. So anyway, back to my conversation with myself here on radio. Give me a number. Radio. Oh no. Radio 430. P430. This is radio P430. And so back to the issue. So what I discovered, the product that I bought, which was pellets, was really good in many directions. Firstly, it was good in the direction that it was not recycled wood, because much of the wood has been treated. There's formaldehyde content in there and other chemicals, so you can't really recycle the wood to use for cooking food. So that was good. Yay! Secondly, there was no carbon footprint when you burned it. Good. Then my last concern, which I couldn't find on the package, which Robert and I were trying to discover and make discoverable, but it was Sunday, so not many people were into work, which is good. We were actually trying to discover what was the sustainable source, because it said it was wood. So in this case, it was maple. So I'm starting to picture all the trees and blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking we're pretty smart now, so it wouldn't be that model. So I tracked it back to Oregon, and I found the Oregon forest, and I was looking into the resources there, and a wonderful person at this company sent me a link that explained some of the work they do, and it was really great. So they had 3 sources. They were using sawdust from a sawmill. They were using wood that was from a managed source. There was an apple orchard that was being taken down, and then new trees put in, because those had, I guess, been attacked by bugs or something. And so they took the trees and naturally went through the process of making sure they were clean, and then made them into the pellets. But then I went a little bit further, so I realized that yes, they were really trying to find sustainable wood. They weren't just shrinking down the forests in Oregon in order to get these products for us, because if they catch fire with us and we really like them because no carbon footprint and the flavor's better, then we're going to start buying in mass, and that's when it becomes a problem. So then I found something called mass lumber or mass timber, and it is an incredibly well-managed initiative where the forests are actually replanted, and there's a whole infrastructure in there that's very complex that allows for us to use this timber for building, because we have a burgeoning population, but at the same time you combine it with this kind of laminate and these other timbers, so that the wood ends up not being taken away from the raw forests. But the problem was when I looked at the replanting, it looked like a replanting initiative in general. In our forests here in Canada too, I've seen models where it's just a replanting. So you have a bunch of redwoods stuck in an area, but that's not really the way a forest is designed. So if we're going to replace a forest or keep it growing while also as humans building with timber and using our resources around us, our raw materials, which has always been the case, well then I guess we're going to have to learn how to design the forest ecologically authentically. So it has to be with ecological authenticity, which means you need people who are not part of the business. You need people who are not part of necessarily the government, but maybe affiliated with. You need people who are ecologists and environmentalists who understand forest, specifically ecology. That would be the specialists. So, we love the generalists, but specialists come in really handy when you're trying to design an ecologically accurate forest after you've taken down some of the trees in order to have products for humans, which is natural. So, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I'm very annoying, or not, I really would like to ask for, instead of a replanting initiative, a design initiative that follows the model that is closest to the perfect design, which would be the one created by Mama Nature. So that would require a little bit of a study on our part, a little bit of knowing that we will not master the forest by just replanting, although it's awesome. The way the system is great, but it just needs that piece. We can always learn more. Okay, humans? And animals and plants and people of London? There you go. Great. Okay, just going to do one quick reading, and I talked to you a little bit about the forest idea and design as part of the reforestation and self-understanding the ecology from start to finish, which is a specialist kind of idea, and someone who's rather detached from any body that would be corporate or of that nature. But certainly is on speaking terms, of course. All right, so here we are, page 342. Elena concluded after this discussion that he was a busy being and needed help. Not remonstrations or lectures on conduct. She could just imagine Pravina with her arms crossed over her chest and her mood exasperated by the alteration of her clothes washer to accommodate a secret entrance to the underground city. The levels of dirty clothes in her laundry basket remained full. She was afraid to load it and risk the perpetual high-velocity spin. Who could blame her? So this is where Manu, the alien, has converted her laundry machine into a portal that leads to the underground city. And he's kind of fudged it a little bit, and so her laundry is piling up. So it's kind of this funny dynamic between the perfect ordinary idea of doing laundry and this alien coming in and this whole underground city, and just kind of creates this whole funny scene of how they're dealing with that. In a recent conference call, Pravina had described a very different version of the installation. Elena had also talked to Advia, who is now living with Pravina and Ezio. He had complained to Elena about the need for washing clothes too frequently, too thoroughly. Homework had to be completed, and this spelled less adventure, more routine, greater concentration, but wonderful food was the verdict. He poured out more of his life story as the Wi-Fi connection remained intact. He wanted to go back to being a spy in training, so Advia is the young orphan boy, Pravina has taken him in. And so he's trying to get used to being, I guess, domesticated, like a regular child living in a family after he's been out on the streets for so long and then in spy school. And so there's just this transition that he's going through. Elena came to understand, as she listened quietly, that Advia's mild discontent with the all-female household was obvious. He was an orphan boy who was not used to rules and nurturing ways. She also heard in his tone the growing connections, the trust that he shared with Pravina and Azil, a stitch of warmth under the facade. Azil was next to speak in the parade of faces on screen. She confirmed that Vivan had never returned. Pravina, on screen beside her, nodded and then abruptly left the room, covering her face. So Vivan is Pravina's husband, and he has left the scene. He left Pravina. And it's because, of course, there's a villain. It's a long story, but he's basically has gone. Smothering grief in the soft folds of her pale pink scarf, Advia jumped to attention off the plush cushions of the couch, knocking the laptop to the floor. Elena gripped the edge of the glass coffee table in her own location as her stomach did a mild loop, a feeling like a bobsled sliding down a short, icy run. And then here on this page, you can see someone found this one and they wrote in French beautifully. They wrote their French comment, which is going to be very interesting. This is the first time I'm finding it, but I had this really nice conversation with this person, I remember, and they were a PhD of the French language, and we were talking about languages. Everything was fantastic. So I just found his comment now, because it's always a great mystery to me. I don't always see where they put them unless they mark them, and then I come across them, and it's kind of fun for me. So this is where he came in on this page, where it talks about, she unconsciously adjusted her cushion seat and angled her head to the side as she watched Advia's small brown hand with clean trimmed nails reach for a tissue from a box. His bare feet then crossed the carpet at a run, very close to Elena's line of sight. There on the floor, where the laptop lay tilted on its side, so she's on the floor, her screen, she's calling from another country, of course, and this is her perspective through the laptop. So it's kind of a funny created scene where she's in their place, but only from the laptop, and it's fallen off the table because all this commotion and all this emotion is happening, and they're dealing with all these issues over there, and she can't really touch or feel or get close because she's basically a computer in the scene. So there's just this whole dynamic between the object, which is bringing Elena from across other lands into this place where there's this real fevered emotion and these real people going through. So I guess that is part of our times to understand that, and whether it's sufficient or not is the question. And it's also a little bit comic that the object of her on the floor and the object of the computer itself being a rectangle that falls on its edge. So there's a lot of exploration there now in our times as we try to Skype and we have globalization connected through computers. And how much do you really understand what's going on in any one place or home from the perspective of a computer that's fallen off the table and it's now lying on the floor, and all she can see is the feet running. And so kind of a little commentary on that and a question of that. So that's really cool. And I'm going to play a little piece to that. Since the computer is aiding and weighing down the camera today, or is balancing it, so it will fall off the edge there. Interesting. Guess we all have to decide. I do so love it as a tool. I just don't like being on it all the time. That's why I come to the piano room. But certainly great for a lot of things. It does make your life really easy. I just wouldn't want to be all day on it. It's great for facilitating a number of things. I was just having a bit of a fight with on that subject. I was just having a little bit of a conflict with the security systems we have, the cyber securities, because the security system that I put on, I entered the key and everything. It actually, the key that I was given, you know, there's all the different ones, protections. There's Norton and there's Maccabee. There's a whole list of them that protect us these days, because so much content and of our lives is centralized around our computers. So it becomes a huge stress. So I was hugely stressed because I was having all these glitches happening. And some of them were human, but most of them were computer-led glitches, and we had no idea. And it was because possibly someone, the human side, had hacked. And we have this huge problem with hacking and cybercrime and all that. So I was basically telling the very nice girl and then the very nice guy on the phone of my security protection, how my key had not worked, even though I registered everything accurately. And then I had some guy tell me I had to phone him and I phoned and left a message in order to reconfirm that my key and my computer was protected. And then he phones me at 2 in the morning to say, okay, it's all tickety-boo. And it did have on it, it had the logo, you know, the .com, and it does say official site, so you know it's accurate and it's them. And then my key, somehow, the number on the cardboard went missing out of my spot that I had it, which was wild. So I had this compounding problems and meanwhile, my whole life and all my work as an artist is on the computer, like you. So can you imagine how difficult that is? Because all this creative content and all the work you've done, oh my God. And I already had my computer once go out. Oh, and I had to get it off. I lost months of time in it. Oh my gosh, just recently. It wasn't that, it was like a month ago. Oh, talk about stress. So I told them, you know what, your security system has been hacked. You need higher security for your security. That's what we finally concluded at the end, that it wasn't me, that the security system going on my computer, the providers, they needed more security. Because I was telling them, you know, this is the problem these days. And I was explaining to them, hopefully, what a good job the banks were doing, because they, you know, have people's money. But these people have people's creative content. They have their what do we call that? What's the word? They have their intellectual property on there. Their intellectual property. So there seems to be, that means that it has to be pretty high up there in terms of, you know, not allowing hackers into your intellectual property, don't you think? And some of it's a lot of heart as well. So finally we got some protection back on my computer, but it's still an ongoing problem. I can't tell you how stressful that was. I think you can imagine, especially if you use computers. And for my level of work and for what I do, I have to have a computer because I can't do performance models. I'm not a performance model make. No, I don't need to go to school or like be propped up more. Like I don't need to. So many people tell you, well, you should fix that. And it's like, no, you should fix it. Some people don't perform. But, you know, maybe give them a quieter space. That's why for many of us, this kind of idea works so well. And right now, I don't know about other people, but I'm trying to find this little garden where I can set up. I've had no luck at all. In fact, I got sent on a wild goose chase this morning. Oh my God, to try and find, this lady had offered her garden for me to set up, and I was going to be kind of a creative hub. I was going to kind of invite people to just come in, trickle in, and try some things out, and I was going to play a little piano, and I'd have some artwork, and just a kind of little discussion point area, so we can come to get to know each other, and maybe see a little more, and just relax, and have some food and stuff. And it wasn't there. The address wasn't there. So I felt really embarrassed. right, so after days and days and days and days and hours and hours and hours and hours of work, I finally completed my 3D installation, which I call, which is kind of a form that's kind of play on the idea of cubism, starting from the Rubik's Cube to the cubism movement that came in the art days, just past the Impressionists. And there's sort of big absences in the cubes rather than a solid like the Rubik's, and it's kind of but it's very complex. I can't even explain to you the concept of that style. But this is the last piece I had, and it's a pastel, and of course it's always 3D, so it fits in the scope with the rest. And this girl turned out to be a teen girl, and like the glass one, I'm adding these colors on the head. The other one I had like this burst of pink in there, and this one has a little burst of purple. And I guess it's inspired by some things I was listening to and reading, and some things I knew as a young teen myself about the idea of teen suicide, and when a teen even starts contemplating that idea, how what a terrible prison it is for them in terms of their mind, and how they can combat that, because of course they're dealing with so much in terms of the chemical soup of their bodies as they're changing, and the growth rates, and then they also have identity that they're figuring out, and it's a wonderful period, but it also can be quite difficult and very complex, and especially if they have some compound problems and stressors from the outside coming in, which we know the list of those, which I don't need to go into. And then we also talk about sometimes the bullying and the cliques, and then the opposite of that, where there's a real fairness and inclusion, and a real empathy and love, and a kind of intelligence as well that's very special to the teens. And we know that their brains are still in forming at that point too, at that developmental stage. We always worry about the THCs from drugs, which do affect their plasticity, the brain plasticity, because they do have this tremendous ability to learn at that stage in terms of the flexibility of their thinking. So we want to sort of keep that intact and keep that ability to generate thought in an agile way. That's so important because it's part of creative solutions, and we hate to get them stuck too early in performance models when they have so much more developmentally to do, just forming themselves in their brain, before we get them into the gladiator ring, as I call it, which is the performance where there's an audience. And so Justin Bieber, not really liking it. Sorry. I know he has a gazillion fans, so they're like ready to like sling me up in the guillotine and chop off my head like a mop. But I really believe, Justin, your talent is awesome, but I wouldn't want any teen to follow the path that you had to go through. And I really think that it's not your fault that you're recruiting these new young people and putting them in the gladiator ring or the performance ring when they're still developmentally trying to discover more. Beyond just their musical talent. I think that's rather flat, Justin, but certainly I can understand how you would think that, because that's where you came from. And I'm sorry, it doesn't make you right, but it is so beautiful what you are trying to do. And I know there's like just about 1 billion teens that want all that green, and they want all those cameras, but to be honest, if we're talking about globalization and preparing people for world readiness, that is not the path for the teens. They have something much bigger than that. I'm just saying. So there we go. This is to you, teens, in your world journey, your discovery, and your growth. It really is a beautiful period that you go through. And yes, I know how trying it must be in 2017, but I encourage you to give your best to it and embrace your identities and your search for identity with a kind of wonder and a tolerance. so crazy and big to you. You're probably right. That's the world's fault, not yours. Don't forget to give yourself a break. A little fresh. Stay alive. Doesn't mean a performance. For the teens, all of you. Can't wait to see who you'll be. But I'm not in a hurry. As the globe's gonna need ya. You know? Okay, so I went outside and got a book, and I'm just rehanging my camera here so you can have a chance to see. And it's called Travels in a Stone Canoe. It is here, Travels in a Stone Canoe, and it's the return to the Wisdom Keepers, or there's a little patch over it, so it's Isdom Keepers. Let's hope it's wisdom. Let's make sure. Yeah, Travels in a Stone Canoe. Okay. It's by Harvey Arden and Steve Wall. And yeah, Wisdom Keepers. And we've covered quite a lot today. So I'm here at P430. My radio station I'm inventing for today. And I even had a chance to go out, and you know what's really amazing? Don't get all spooked or anything, because it's just coincidence, but when I went outside the door here, when I opened the book, it was the guy with the PhD and the doctorate. He was actually sitting out there. Isn't that cool? And can you think of all the times you've had those most amazing coincidences? I can, where you weren't someone you weren't expecting, and you open a book, or those deja vu moments. They're always really interesting, aren't they? Fascinating things, those that happen to us all the time. Oh, there we go. All right, so Travels in a Stone Canoe, the return to the Wisdom Keepers. So I think sometimes in different cultures they are often known as the shaman. They are sometimes known as the mystiques. They are sometimes known as the judges. They are sometimes known as the older people, the elders. So first, let's just go on that idea. Who are the wisdom keepers in any given community, in any given culture? And that would be a very interesting research topic to see who those wisdom keepers are. I talk a lot about guardians also in terms of the global planet. It's in my art installation, but I think the wisdom keepers too are something. And I guess they would also have something to know about past, present, future in terms of speculation of the future, maintaining the heritage that we know in terms of a history, and just keeping things real. It doesn't mean, I think, because you're a wisdom keeper that you're older, or I think there's probably a lot of the phrase we used to use for young people, like even teens, we used to say, boy, you have your head on right. You have your head square on your shoulders, or you've got your head, on right on your shoulders. And you can just hear sometimes this wisdom coming out. And I don't think it's any particular age. And then there's those that are consistently wise, possibly because they've seen a lot of life, or they've been a lot of places, or maybe they just have this sense of things that seems to always just ooze through them in a way that's someone you want to listen to. Have you ever encountered that person where you just kind of want to stay in their presence just a little bit longer because they're showing you something or teaching you something? It's like a teacher. Sometimes they're teachers, aren't they? Or coaches. I think those people sometimes can be the wisdom keepers, the philosophers maybe, some of the ones we know. let's open up this one and see what we find. All right, so it's called Following the Path. Faces shining there in the darkened room on the projection room screen. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just bit my lip. Oh, Lord, how I wanted to do that Iroquois story. I just couldn't imagine Harvey going off and doing it without me. Finally, Garrett finished reviewing my photographs. Not bad, he said. Some pretty good stuff there, Steve. I didn't realize all that you guys had done. He turned around in his chair and looked at the assembled editors. What do you say? Anyone here for reviving the grandfather's story? Cool. I couldn't believe my ears. A volley of moans and "oh no's" from nearly everyone in the room quickly dissuaded him. My heart fell. Well, Garrett continued, at least there's no question of Steve's ability to do the Iroquois. We'll give him another chance. He gave me a wink and a smile across the room. That Shawnee great-grandmother had come to my rescue again, and I was assigned. The very same pictures of mine that had been used to kill the grandfather's story now got me the assignment to do the Iroquois story. You figure it out. But at least Harvey and I were off to Great Turtle Island again. We were back on the path of wisdom keepers. Just as it seemed we had lost our way altogether, we found the path right there, under our feet again. We'd been on it all along. It was like being reborn. Neat. Great. I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, I read one section that was for myself, and it involved the owl. It was very beautiful, and some of the symbols that the owl is a symbol of death, but also a symbol of life in Native tradition, a wisdom keeper symbol, and also a great observer of a great observer. So I've known that for a long time. I guess we all know the symbolism behind that beautiful, beautiful creature, the owl. Something I admire, and I did do a drawing of an owl a long time back, and I just brought it back recently and put it to glass swirls and some light behind it, and had a chance to take it through the community to try and change the background up to see how that would affect the whole art installation. So that's why I was interested in reading about the owl in terms of Native people and wisdom keepers. So now I have this part. Oh, this is really good. I want to read to you, okay? Because this is something that we all contend with. And I call it the who gets opt philosophy. and sometimes if you don't follow the standard form, or you don't follow what is actually deemed as popular culture but possibly is not the leadership of popular culture, possibly they're looking for another kind of leadership that they would like to see the trending things not so much leading as they leading. So, when does a trend start to lead public opinion, and when does the people always kind of lead it? There's always that flip, isn't there? When you actually become more of a follower as a people than you are, because this thing called a trend has taken over the perspectives to the point that there's no questioning, and it gets very exuberant and exciting. But is it right? So anyway, this is glimpses of the visionary, even the miraculous, soul-penetrating wisdom, enigmatic signs, but nothing solid. So these are the critiques they got when they brought forward these awesome pictures of some of the grandfathers who were the elders in the tribe, the medicine men. This is what they got from the publishers who wouldn't let them bring these photographs to the people and to the news, to the geographic. So it says, there was no sympathy. We had failed. Our final 6-week flyer was over, and so was the grandfather medicine man story. 2 trees hadn't been able to hack it. He's one of the guys, one of the native people. And neither had we, because it's so impossible. Because you get this barrage of, no, it's not, blah, blah, blah. Let them articulate it, and you'll see. Steve's photographs, including most of those that 6 years later graced our book Wisdom Keepers, were pronounced unpublishable. Not a zinger in the bunch, they said. No ceremony, almost no beads or feathers or colorful costumes. No red coal tricks, nothing newsworthy. No ecological disasters, no armed rebellions, not even a bloody powwow. Isn't that pathetic? That's what they said to them. No, you know what there was in those pictures? Let me tell you. Just good, honest, deep-souled pictures of the elders and their everyday world. Oddly, this negative assessment was made not by Garrett or Judge, but by lower-level functionaries who made it clear they didn't like the way Steve and I just went out on our own and did a story without their overarching supervision. Here at radio-P-430 imaginary radio, which I have no funding for. Oh, so fine. Don't worry. I'm just thinking it's really funny because I think I'm kind of doing that a little bit, and I have had some troubles for sure. Anyway, only Joe Judge, my direct boss, as articles editor, seemed genuinely saddened. He'd gotten particularly excited when I told him of the amazing Iroquois Confederacy and its demands to meet with the United States government one-on-one. That would have been a heck of an article, he'd exclaimed. But no more ado, the grandfather medicine men story were officially killed. A routine happening at the magazine, yet always unhappy for those involved. So it's part of my personal point. I'm not talking about myself, and I always say this because I went through the publishing industry. Oh yes, yeah, no offense, publishing industry. Then I went through the self-publishing industry, and I thought about all the people and all the stories that never made it like me. And because there was no fitting, there was no portal for me to get through, and so I thought, if I couldn't get through, how many others had these maybe just really beautiful ideas? Not that I did, but just very original or really creative, but because they weren't tough enough to handle the amount of throw or cracking that was going to happen to even get there, or they couldn't break the thing to fit it into the model that was being expected or that was being dictated, how much have we really lost? Whoa. Just don't know. It's something I think about. Because I've met some very ordinary people, bloody geniuses. But they don't market, or they don't perform well, or they don't understand the publishing industry, or the publishing industry is flooded or whatever. But really, I just wonder how many like that, like great, really just, it's not a buzz sensation, it's just really beautiful photos of these grandfathers of medicine men. Oh, how these grandfather men, how beautiful would that have been to have that opportunity? And are we becoming addicted to sensationalism? Are we? So that we can't appreciate something as simple as just these strong souls. There you go. I'm going to end there. All right. Have a good day.